So we've talked about VO2 Max in a lot of our long form podcasts. It just kind of comes up in random conversation. We always talk about the benefits of it, how it's the holy grail of longevity, but I've never sat down and explained what VO2 Max is and why should you care, and how it kind of ties in a lot of the things that we do all into one. Hormones, weight loss, cardio, performance. This is the one test that actually stops the guessing and shows you what's actually going on. So let's kind of simplify it. The definition of it, the VO2 max is the maximum amount of oxygen your body can use during exercise. But what that really represents is your entire system working together. Your lungs bringing in the oxygen, your heart pumping it around, your blood delivering it, your muscles using it. And so when we measure VO2 max, we're not just measuring cardio, we're measuring your entire oxygen delivery and utilization system. So on the surface, VO2 max testing and cardiac stress testing look similar. You're on a treadmill, intensity increases, your heart rate goes up, you're breathing hard. But what's actually being measured and why it's being measured is completely different. A traditional cardiac stress test is designed to answer one question: is something wrong? So they're looking for EKG changes, reduced blood flow to the heart, arrhythmias. It's more of a disease detection tool. And so it's really trying to look like, do you have a problem or not? The VO2 max test is similar, but we're just asking a different question. We're more looking at what type of functional capacity does your body have. We're measuring oxygen intake, carbon dioxide output, ventilation, efficiency of oxygen use. So instead of, are you sick, we're asking, are you operating at a high level or are you underperforming? So just to kind of touch real quickly, you can pass a cardiac stress test but still have a low VO2 max. You know, there's just no obvious disease, but you can still have poor conditioning, poor metabolic efficiency, and this translates into higher long-term risk in how we're looking at it. So the stress test is more, are you safe right now? The VO2 max test is, how far are you from optimal? And so we're always trying to look optimal and closing that gap. And so why should you care? The VO2 max is right now the strongest predictor of longevity that we have. Higher VO2 max is associated with lower risk of heart disease, lower all-cause mortality, better metabolic health. And the difference between low and high VO2 max readings are years of life expectancy. So if you're lifting weights, optimizing testosterone, taking GLP-1s, trying to control your body weight, but your VO2 max is still poor at your baseline, you're building on a weak foundation, and it can give us some insight on that we still need to improve your metabolic engine, improving that engine to provide a better output for all of these other metrics. And so the VO2 max is somewhat of a truth serum in looking at all this. And it's very humbling. You can think you're in good shape, you know, where you work out 4 days a week, you eat clean, you feel fine. But now we have a way to measure it. So let's measure it. The VO2 max doesn't care what you say or do. It actually looks at what your body can perform. So it's the difference between looking healthy and being physiologically efficient, and give us some practical insights as well. VO2 max testing can give us your exact training zones instead of just kind of guessing. So like zone 2, as I've talked in the past, helps build mitochondria. It's really good for fat burning, and so we can get you that specific zone to be in. Zone 3 is kind of an area that's no man's land in a sense of like it's not quite burning the fat like it. It's not really getting you much aerobic conditioning. And so, you know, runners and other people have called this the junk zone and junk volume, where you're just doing things without somewhat of a purpose. And so we can somewhat avoid this, but I don't want to discourage that. If you're doing things and you like doing it, still keep doing it. It's just if we're trying to be, you know, hyper focused and measure things, then we would probably try and avoid this for the most part. Zones 4 and 5 are the high intensity zones, and these help improve the VO2 max. And so this can kind of prevent, you know, bad training days and optimize your training in a sense. You know, give you some insight to make sure you're not going too hard on your easy days and not hard enough on your hard days. And so this gives us the precision to look in that. Now your cardio actually has a purpose, and The other thing, we take it a step further and we'll measure your resting metabolic rate. And we compare this with the VO2 max, your basal metabolic rate with our body composition analysis. And so now we know how many calories you're burning at baseline, what your metabolism looks like, if you're using fat or carbs for your fuel. That's called substrate utilization. And the reality is most people are metabolically inflexible. They rely heavily on carbs and struggle to burn fat efficiently. So whenever we combine the VO2 max, which is a functional assessment of what your body can do, with your RMR, which is just resting metabolic rate, and this gives us your substrate utilization, we can get now a complete metabolic profile. We're not just throwing numbers and guessing along the way. And so again, this kind of just connects everything that we do. If your VO2 max is low, it's typically poor mitochondrial function, typically associated with poor insulin sensitivity, and typically you have poor endurance and poor recovery. And so you could be on testosterone, tirzepatide, taking all the supplements you want, but if your body can't efficiently use oxygen, you're going to be limiting your results. And so this is the bridge between my labs look fine and why do I still feel off? Just your normal primary traditional medicine is ruling out diseases and keeping disease at bay, where we're going to be looking for overall optimization in terms of performance, overall metabolic health, and everything. And this helps us give measures to this. And so who should do this? It's not just for athletes. It's people who are trying to lose weight, people who are on hormone therapy, people who feel off but have normal labs, people who want to prevent disease, not just react to the disease. It tells you where you are and what you need to do next. And so if you've been guessing your calories, guessing your cardio, guessing your progress, we can test your VO2 max and metabolic test and build a plan around your physiology, not just a generic one. And if your VO2 max comes back lower than expected, then that may be the driving factor that you need to incorporate cardio into your workouts, maybe a couple high intensity days, and also gives us something that we can fix. And nothing is more humbling than realizing your easy jog has been zone 4 the entire time. And so if this is something you're interested in or want more information, reach out and we'll be happy to answer any questions.